It's time for Voice of Indie. Your hosts today are Beem Weeks, author, producer, and marketing monster for independent multimedia publisher Fresh Ink Group, and Stephen Gies, author, producer, composer, and publisher for Fresh Ink Group.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to the Voice of Indie podcast. I am your host, Beem Weeks, and this is episode number 125. And this also is the last live show of 2022. So welcome aboard, everybody. How you doing tonight, Stephen? This is my co-host, Stephen G.
I'm doing great. We're bracing for the cold spell that's supposed to be hitting everybody. And, my frogs get to spend the winter in here in the warmth, and they're not grateful. They don't care. They never give me any love. But, we're doing great. I got a quick little story to tell before mentioning what's happening next week. I went to the Guntersville Library today, Guntersville, Alabama Library, to donate a couple of books, some hardcovers. And while I was in there, I was talking to three of the librarians, one who I know real well. And I pulled out two of my own books, hardcovers, and one of the librarians was like, "Oh yeah, I read this one. I've got this at home. Yeah, we'll definitely take those." So they were real nice about accepting two of my books. And then I pulled out The Rise and Fall of a Construction Giant about CFW construction, which is kind of a regional story. And they liked that one. And I pulled out Volunteer Bama Dog by NBC newscaster David Carroll, and they really liked that one. So they're getting kind of excited about these. And then I reached in the bag to pull out the last book, and it was the hardcover of Mark Herndon's The High Road, Memories from a Long Trip. Mark Herndon, who played drums with the supergroup Alabama for almost 3 decades. I pulled that out. And all three of the librarians gasped and said, "Mark Herndon's book, yes, we want that. Yes, we want that." And there were like 5 or 6 people in the library, all within 20, 30 feet of us. And it's like their heads all popped up like, what's this? And they all started coming over and saying, "Is that available to check out? When can I get that?" And it's like, okay. And I'm just standing there saying, "Hey, there's a couple of Stephen G's books sitting here too, but Mark Herndon was the star for a minute there. So, but at any rate, that leads into telling you, as Beem mentioned, this is our last live show of the year. Next week, between Christmas and New Year's, next Wednesday evening, we're going to rerun the episode that features Mark Herndon and his wife, country singer Leah Seawright.
Yeah, and they are, Mark is being inducted into the South Carolina Music Hall of Fame, receiving the Lifetime Achievement Award. And he'll be at the Myrtle Beach House of Blues, which is where it all started for him there in Myrtle Beach. So congratulations to Mark, and congratulations to Leah as well. And if you missed the episode as it played before, do tune in. It's a fantastic show. We had a lot of callers that called in from all over the place, even up in Canada. Canadians called in, and they had their favorite Alabama story or just questions for Mark and Leah. So do tune in on that.
Yeah, we were so busy we never even did get to Charlie Daniels' call, did we?
No, we didn't.
Yeah.
Had to put Charlie on hold.
Yeah.
Let me just interject here a little update. All of you who are regular listeners, you know Verwayne Greenhoe. He's usually in our audience. Verwayne has been in the hospital with some medical issues. He is home. He's not in the audience tonight, as his wife is being that strict nurse on him, as he said. He's had to have a couple of blood transfusions in order to get him out of the hospital, and then he had a couple more now that he's home. And he said he's feeling a little bit better, and he's back to working on some of his writing, but he's definitely not 100%. So we do wish him well, and hopefully he will be back in the audience after the new year.
Yep, our best to you, Verwayne. So we've been talking about Kenneth Lindquist's books, How to Teach Driving, Behind the Wheel Lesson by Lesson, hardcover, softcover, and ebook. And there are 2 different versions of that book. One is the instructor's edition, and that's for training people who want to become certified instructors according to the various requirements for certification in all the 50 states in the U.S. And then we have a parent's edition for parents who want to help their teenagers or young adults learn how to be good drivers or better drivers, as it were. Now, the instructor's edition is out there in all editions, and from what we can see, it's pretty much showing up at all the retailers. So that one's breathe a sigh of relief. The parents edition we published after the instructor's edition. The print editions appear to be out there in most places floating around. The ebooks, it's kind of hit and miss. Like we published the Nook edition, for example, but we're still not seeing it on Barnes & Noble. So Barnes & Noble seems to be trying real hard to be as difficult to work with as Amazon, but we're working on that stuff. But How to Teach Driving, all the editions are published. If you're not seeing the version that you want or the edition that you want, give it a day or two, and hopefully it'll pop up and we'll get those issues resolved. But for the most part, those books are out there. They're excellent books, and frankly, I'm a little bit surprised at how well that instructor's edition has taken off and is selling right out the gate. So How to Teach Driving by Kenneth Lindquist.
All right. Audiobook status. Mad Max and Sweet Sarah by Ellie Cullen, as read by actor Ethan Drew. That is out and available. Just go over to Amazon and grab your copy. Girl Wears Those Shoes. That's out now, and that's narrated by Vivian Ahn, a fantastic Asian-American, Chinese-American actress in her own right. She's been in movies and things like that. So we're getting some really good voices here. And you can find that one on Amazon as well. So get over there and check that out.
Now, we are in the process of publishing Robert G. Willis Croft's fourth installment in his A Mac McDowell Mission series. This one's Operation Whiteout, a Mac McDowell Mission, Cold War submarine thrillers at their best. And Robert G. Willis Croft knows his submarines and he knows his storytelling. So we highly recommend these books. They're proving to be quite popular. The Operation Whiteout, we're waiting for our files to come back so that we can publish the ebooks. That'll probably happen tomorrow. We published one of the print editions just before we came on the podcast today, so that should be popping up in the next day or two as well. So start watching for Operation Whiteout. And we're in the process of working on an audiobook for that. All of the voiceovers have been recorded, and Beem is busy editing, adding sound effects and music and scratch and sniff, you name it. We're putting it in there.
I knocked out Chapter 5 just this afternoon, so onward to Chapter 6 tomorrow. Listeners, if you want to participate in tonight's show, the last live episode of 2022, now is your chance. You can call or drop a hashtag in Twitter, and here's how you do all that.
Call 516-453-9902 right now with your questions or comments for tonight's guest, or post a note on Twitter with hashtag Fresh Ink Group in the body of the tweet, and we'll read it on air. That's 516-453-9902 or hashtag Fresh Ink Group on Twitter.
All right. Now, over on real quick here, tying into what you were just talking about, the cold snap, Stephen, Robert G. Willis Croft, speaking of the master submarine writer, he says Denver is expecting 5 below tonight.
Whoa.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I saw a couple hours ago on the news, they were talking about someplace in Wyoming dropped 43 degrees in less than an hour today.
Wow.
And set some kind of a record, and they said it was close to 75 degrees that dropped in 2 hours. So
that's cold.
Hunker down, people. It's coming. I mean, down here in Alabama, we're talking single digits are expected by tomorrow night. So they don't know how to act down here when that happens.
We're looking at that too. There's a YouTube channel. It's a family that they live in Alaska. They live in North Pole, Alaska. And they have a neat little YouTube channel, and you kind of follow their lives. And the other night they had one on, and it was, I believe, 29 below zero. And that was up from, they started the day at 38 below zero.
Wow.
That's cold. But they're used to it.
Okay, now when we publish books, most of the time we put them into pre-sale for about a month, maybe 5 or 6 weeks or something like that before the actual release date. There's some advantages to that in terms of trying to get a bunch of sales all at the same time on the release date, see if you can push your ranking up. But frankly, the biggest advantage for us is solving problems, because when we put these books out there, 10 years ago, you could put a book out there and everything would be okay. Now you put it out there and it might be on a retailer site, it might not. One edition's missing. The books aren't linked. They don't recognize who the author is. There are just so many problems to try to resolve on this stuff that we use that pre-sale period for that. But Amazon has this aggravating way of not always respecting that. Many times we've put down a pre-sale and then a release date, and then Amazon starts shipping that book anywhere from 4, 5, 6 days, even a week before the actual release date, and with no rhyme or reason, no explanation, and certainly no compensation for the aggravation that they caused. There's been twice in the past that they just didn't respect it at all. They just went ahead and put the book for sale right away. That just happened again. We were uploading the Sassy files this week for the new Sassy book, and we wound up, we were trying to shoot for a mid-January release date, and the thing went for sale immediately, went live. And when that happens, you can't pull it back. So we're running with it. So those of you who are familiar with B.A. Johnson's Sassy Discovers the AME Church, there's now a sequel, a second book in the series called Sassy Uncovers Peter Allen's Secret. And Peter Allen is the long-lost son of the church's founder. And she unearthed some really cool information, and she has Sassy and the kids in the book learn all about that, helping young AME members learn about the history of their church. So that book is appearing now out there in some places, but ebook is available first. Print books, we're trying to resolve a couple of issues today, and it looks like we should have those out there in the next day or two as well. So there's a new video for it. Get over there to YouTube and check it out. Make sure you like it and share it and whatnot. And, hey, you've got time to still give a new Sassy book as a Christmas present. So yeah. Sassy Uncovers Peter Allen's Secret, the sequel to Sassy Discovers the AME Church. Yeah.
And as Stephen mentioned, the Operation Whiteout is being put together as an audiobook as well. The entire Mac McDowell series is on audiobook. So there are 3 current books out. Go over to Amazon and type in Mac McDowell series by Robert G. Williscroft, and it'll take you to all 3 of the ones that are out right now. And Operation Whiteout, continuing in the same vein as these great, thrilling adventures. I'm not going to put a time date on it. Give me a couple more weeks, and we should have this thing, tightened and ready to go. But keep your ears and eyes open. And if you want to know the updates on these things, guess what? We have a newsletter, and here's how you can sign up for that newsletter.
Stay on top of these podcasts and all things Fresh Ink Group with our weekly digital newsletter. New releases, videos, stories, excerpts, interviews, and more. Sign up now on the homepage of FreshInkGroup.com and be the one who knows what's what.
Hey, so let's take a quick look at our top 5 print bestsellers for the week. In the number 1 slot, we've got a book nobody's ever heard of called Submariner. 30 Years of Hijinks and Keeping the Fleet Afloat. So that thing has bounced back up into the number 1 position, and that's after most of the week Mark Herndon's book, The High Road, was in that top slot. Right now, The High Road is in the number 4 slot because the number 2 and 3 slots are grabbed by Larry Jorgensen's Shipwrecked and Rescued, Cars and Crew, The City of Bangor. And the hardcover is outselling the softcover exactly 2-to-1. Exactly. To the copy. So another example where the hardcovers are outselling the softcovers, and we're sitting around scratching our noses like, hey, well, we know what we're doing, except we can't explain this. High Road, number 4 slot, and then in that number 5 slot, How to Teach Driving. Behind the Wheel, lesson by lesson, Behind the Wheel, Instructor's Edition. I can't tell if it's the softcover or the hardcover, but that book's only been out there for a little over a week, and it's already starting to break into our top 5. So congratulations, everybody.
Fantastic. Yeah, and look for more book releases to jump onto this list with the upcoming The Calling Dream by Carlisle Toms, American Darkness by Stephen Skibicki, The Chair 3 by Robert McKenzie. Keep your ears and eyes open for that. We will put that in the newsletter. So make sure you're signed up for that newsletter. And if you miss an episode or you want to re-listen to an episode that was one of your favorites, or you're new to the show and you want to go back and see some of the guests, listen to some of the guests we've had in the past, we've got a extensive archive, and here's how you can find those old, they're not old, those previous episodes.
Find your favorite show in the Voice of Indie archives on YouTube at Fresh Ink Group, StephenG's.com, BeamWeeks.com, FreshInkGroup.com, and on Spotify. And now you can listen on iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and tune in. Just search The Voice of Indie, all one word.
All right. So, Beem, why don't we go ahead and knock out our first commercial before we read the bio and introduce our guests. This will be for the Sassy series that we just talked about, and it's a brand new commercial, and there's a brand new video for it over on YouTube. We just uploaded that thing day before yesterday, and I noticed within a couple of hours it already had almost 50 views and a bunch of likes. So, the new Sassy series.
All right.
Hi, I'm Mary Margaret Fanson. My grandmother, Big Mama, calls me Sassy. I've been a member of the African Methodist Episcopal Church all my life. I never knew why everyone was so proud to be AME. Then I met Gerald in Children's Church. He thinks he knows everything about being AME. I have to learn a lot more just to show him. B.A. Johnson has been writing a series of books about me, my brother, and my friends, with lots of colorful drawings. We also explore bullying, friendship, inclusion, death, grief, forgiveness, and more. Sassy discovers the AME Church is about me learning about our church and something terrible that happened in Charleston. The second book, Sassy uncovers Peter Allen's secret, is about discovering the story of our church's founder's family and one hero in particular. These and more Sassy books are published by Fresh Ink Group in laminated hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats available worldwide. Come on, join me and discover why I can say I'm proud to be AME.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool new video in the Fresh Ink Group channel. Get over there and check that out. And while you're at it, if you don't already, subscribe to the Fresh Ink Group channel. You can't get any better than that. I mean, Netflix, not even competition for us.
Yeah.
Now,
we're just waiting on our Oscars.
Yeah, exactly. Widetrack is the musical partnership of Ron Tippin and his 18-year-old son, Zach. The duo's Alterna prog sound strikes a balance between the moody, deep undertones of such progressive groups as Pink Floyd, Radiohead, Porcupine Tree, the Mars Volta, etc., with the heaviness of alternative and hard rock bands like Soundgarden, Queens of the Stone Age, Tool, STP, etc. Queens of the Stone Age, that's Josh Homme, isn't it?
Yeah.
Between 2007 and 2016, Ron self-released the band's first 3 albums, Widetrack, Widetrack 2, I'm sensing a pattern here, Widetrack 3, Zach's recording debut as bassist. Beginning in January 2019, the father-son team wrote, recorded, and released one new song each month, marking Zach's debut as a songwriter and recording engineer, as well as the first time Ron had written Widetrack music with another person. The 12 songs comprise Widetrack's 4th album, The Unwakening, released on April 23, 2020, on Zach's 16th birthday. So obviously he's a slacker. The band is in the process of booking live dates and finishing their 5th album to be released soon. Welcome to the show, Ron and Zach.
Welcome, guys.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Thanks so much. Doing well. Good to have you on. So, how about telling our listeners, where are you guys originally from and where are you living now?
Well, I was born in Pontiac, Michigan, and currently live in Waterford, Michigan, but was living in Marietta, Georgia for about 3 years, and Zach was born in Atlanta, Georgia. And as soon as my dad's first grandchild was born, the pressure began to get us back to Michigan, a campaign which succeeded. We've been here ever since. Just when I got out, they pull us back in.
Those Michigan Mafia people.
So, I think it's just fantastic that a father and son can find a common way to be creative together and work on projects and do something that's so constructive, so fun, and that results in something that you can both be so proud of. How did that get started? When's the first time that you got an inkling, like maybe this kid could, pluck a few strings and sound like something? And how did you get that going? What's the process? I'm just curious how this happens.
Well, I first started playing guitar when I was about 8 years old. When I got my first guitar, I got really serious about it when I went into middle school. I was 10 or 11 or so, and I was introduced to a lot of cool classic rock music with just the right amount of musical complexity to have a progressive routine to learn from. And so with proper guidance, I was able to get pretty familiar with a lot of the same music that my dad was familiar with, and we had a lot of the same influences just naturally after that. Like, it wasn't really like I'm listening to my dad's music. It was more like I've gotten to discover a lot of cool music through my dad, but, still on my own. It was important that, music was never pushed on me or expected of me, even though I'm sure a lot of musician parents, think that music is good in some facet for their kid. I think it's, from my own experience, it's best if you get to feel the wonder of discovery for yourself. And I came into it just by thinking, wow, that looks cool. Look at how many friends all those musicians have. And I want to do that. Cool. So there was nothing complicated about it, nothing like impressing a parental figure. So everything was very natural. And so it's tough to even see it as like being father and son. It's more like, like how the heck have we heard all the same stuff and we're writing together with different strengths and weaknesses? It's totally 50-50 collaboration.
Well, that's cool. Did you go through the usual process of also playing with other guys your age, doing a little garage band, playing at block parties or school dances, any of that kind of stuff, or was it strictly just playing with your father?
Yeah, I made a big effort to play with people my age. It's funny because trying to play, classic rock and progressive rock, a lot of the music that I really resonated with personally, didn't really go as well. It felt more difficult to get people on the same page, but introducing myself to more styles like jazz and classical, I was able to play with some of the best musicians in my school. And those groups were the ones that really pushed me and gave me a full musical education through experience.
Wow. Going through that similar process myself back in the day when I was, junior high school or whatnot, I found playing with guys my own age was difficult because 9 times out of 10 or even more often than that, they're not trying to master the music, find ways to improve it, enhance their skills or whatever. They're busy just having a fantasy that they're on stage.
Yeah.
So you have to turn it up so loud that you can't hear it to work on it, And then you have to stand up there like right in the front of the garage opening and strut around like there's an audience out there. And it's like, oh, come on, people, we're trying to work on a song here. We can strut around and have fun with it after we get it down pat. But it's kind of hard to work with young people like that. And then when I made the transition to working with professionals, boy, what a difference. They're in there like, okay, I got to be somewhere in 2 hours. Let's write a song. And no messing around, no fantasy or whatever. And I assume working with your dad is more like working with a professional, huh?
I don't think so, but I do think there's some value to be taken away from jamming with people who are maybe more casual, because I think if you lose sight of the accessible, just base nature of music, and especially rock music, I think you can become really clinical and sterile about your approach. And so I think it's good to put yourself in situations that are uncomfortable, even if it's uncomfortable because you think, man, I feel like my time's being wasted. I feel like these people don't, value music in the same way. I think it's just a new type of change.
Yeah, I understand what Steven's saying, though, because my cousin is a stellar guitar player, and he's toured the country for decades. 20 years he spent out on the road. One of those almost made it guys, almost made it with a record deal, and then things kind of fell apart, and then he got into some different stuff, computer programming and things like that. So that's where he's at now. But you meet these people that some, like what Steven is talking about, you're trying to be musicians, and then there's those who want to be rock stars. That they want the adulation and the girls and the parties and all of that. That's why they're in it. There's a lot of them that'll even tell you that I got into this band for the girls.
Oh God, I remember Gene Simmons of Kiss saying that, and that's his famous quote. Anybody that tells you he got into music for anything other than girls is lying. And well, we can tell you that absolutely. It was always about it just looked so fun. It looked like the first time I saw a drum set, I was like, what? Who wouldn't want to get behind that and just beat it, even if you don't know what you're doing? That just looks like a blast. And indeed it was, And if you start learning more stuff and you start finding that true freedom, it comes best from self-discipline. The more discipline and the more vocabulary you have, the more freedom you have to express more specifically what's inside you. But I also think there's a yin-yang about it to what Zach's saying is like, when you go and see a band, there's those few. I think Led Zeppelin it's one of the reasons why they were always regarded as one of the best, because they were a musician type band, but then they just had that swagger and swing and the funkiness and the groove and the fun that people loved. I mean, Robert Plant's lyrics are a great example of how much diversity. He'll have something like Kashmir, and then he'll have the baby, baby, baby stuff. And rarely does one lyricist embody both of those sides. But that's a good lesson. Black Sabbath, there's some technicality going there with their arrangements, but they're such a groovy band and such a, I guess rock and roll was initially meant to be that kind of thing, and over the years with all the subgenres and the evolution of it, it's taken on new life forms within its own genre. But at its core, there has to be some kind of reckless abandon at work, at least for us. I mean, everybody's got their take on it, but our favorite bands seem to have that, even if they do have the musician side.
Yeah. There's a nice mix there, especially with Led Zeppelin, rock stars who were musicians. Now, let's switch gears here. And now, Zach, we know that you've been off to college now, and I understand you've transferred from music to data science. What's going on there?
Yeah, I got to music school, and a lot of it was just misaligned with what I really wanted to do. And I realized that, it's a great opportunity, and you're obviously going to learn a lot and become a better musician by going into a music school program. But I wasn't convinced that for the amount of time and money that it would take, it would be a worthwhile investment, because it would have to require that I forego a lot of other musical opportunities and opportunities with college. And so, for better or for worse, I decided to entertain a better life balance by giving myself a break from music and letting music be a break from school.
Well, that's cool because, I can understand that if you're studying music at school, it's almost like then you're jamming with your dad. It's almost like homework or something. You know, it's like with like we talked off the air for reading. I love reading. I'm a voracious reader, but after sitting in front of a computer all day, editing and doing some of these things, and I'm done, the last thing I want to do is crack open a book and start reading, which is kind of a bummer because reading is sort of my thing. But so I don't read that much. I mean, is that kind of what you're getting at? That it's, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I noticed that I was playing guitar way less, not only just for fun, but like in general. I just wasn't practicing as much. You know, so much of it was like theory homework that was, you know, just not stuff I'm ever going to use, being honest, and more tedious. And there are nuggets that are useful, but it's just, you know, it totally distracts from the creative and meditative side of music to me.
No, I took some new music theory classes when I was 16, 17 years old, and I found that, you know, I was very interested in breaking down, you know, is this a Mixolydian scale? How are they structuring this? How is this kind of stuff put together? So I could find ideas where I could, you know, take that knowledge and run with it. But I found that these classes were geared toward people who want to eventually get jobs in traditional music, working with orchestras, you know, playing an instrument in an orchestra, or being a conductor, or being a music teacher in high school, or things like that. And I'm identifying with what you're saying. I spent a lot of time sitting there learning things that I had no interest in and never intended to use, and was hungry for, no, I really want to talk about this other stuff, but that's not the way those classes were designed. Is that, you feeling that way too?
Totally. Yeah, totally. I love music theory. It's just, you know, a lot of the classical stuff. It's just outside of, you know, the music that I compose, and it's a long road.
Yep. So, Beem, you want to roll another commercial here, and then maybe say hi to Dr. Helen real quick before we get back into talking to Ron and Zach Tippin?
Sure.
Whether you're a parent or professional instructor, How to Teach Driving, lesson by lesson, shows how to teach fundamental driving in a logical sequence. Instill confidence in your students or family members while helping them practice their skills in a safe setting before they need them on the road. You will practice diagnosing and analyzing driving errors, especially steering errors, so you can explain and correct them before they become dangerous habits. Academy founder Kenneth Lindquist includes a wide variety of tips, such as how to avoid hugging the center line and to take proper seatbelt use seriously. This instructor's edition of How to Teach Driving and its companion Parents Edition are the perfect partners to written guides because they translate the classroom's two-dimensional concepts into three-dimensional skills. Proudly published by Fresh Ink Group, both editions of How to Teach Driving are found everywhere in laminate hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats. Whether your region requires driving instructor training and certification, or you simply want to be the best at helping beginners learn road safety, this book is the place to start.
Good series.
Yeah.
Over on Twitter, I see Robert Williscroft followed up his comment about Denver expecting 5 below tonight by saying, by the way, while I was at the geographic South Pole, we hit 117.8 degrees Fahrenheit below. Whee!
Did you go swimming?
Yeah.
Tried the Polar Bear Club? All right, we're going to go to the phone and bring in Dr. Helen to say hello and see how she's doing. And maybe get an update on where she's at in her recovery. Hello, Dr. Helen. How you doing?
Hi. How are you doing, Beem and Gary?
Hi, Helen.
Doing well.
Yeah, I'm doing much better. I still don't know whether my apartment and its contents are still there, but I just I want to congratulate your guests and wish you guys all a happy Christmas Hanukkah. But I have one other thing.
You rehearsed
to
that,
report,
didn't you?
because these are musicians are there. There's a new musical group. It's called the Rubber Band. It features musicians Stretch and Snappy.
Oh.
So how are you guys doing? It's I missed you last week. Yeah.
Yeah, we noticed that. We notice when you're not in the audience because you listen via telephone. So we noticed that.
But you know what you guys missed? What's his name? Zelensky's speech in Congress.
I saw it. I saw most of it, and then I had to click over and come over here and set up to do this podcast. But I recorded the rest of it. He was giving a good, rousing speech. He's a good speaker.
Yeah.
Now, Helen, you mentioned you're not sure about your apartment. Can't you call the doorman there and find out what's going on, what the status is?
But as I've been trying to recover and go through the various processes here, I got one problem was when I called the landlord and said I arranged for the bank for them to get the money directly, and he said we'll only accept checks. So I'm going to call. I'll call him tomorrow. I'll follow up. But this is 5 months, so hopefully they are being discreet and slow to respond.
Yeah, you've got some good doormen there. While we were trying to figure out what happened to you and where you went, I would call them and talk to them almost every day. And there's only so much they can say because it's private information. But they were keeping me informed of what was going on. So I'd stay on that, follow up.
Okay, I'll call tomorrow. It's just that a lot has been going. There's a lot. They have music here too, It's not as good as your guests, but some guy plays the guitar and sings a lot of songs. So we had Christmas songs and all of that, and it's very nice.
Music always makes the world better.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. But congratulations to all you guys. I always like to. I don't want to take up too much of your time because I want to listen into the Wednesday soiree to all your other guests.
Well, thanks for calling in, Dr. Helen. We're glad to hear that you're recovering well. And by the way, Helen, I mailed you a Christmas card.
Wishes. What?
I mailed you a Christmas card about 2 or 3 days ago, so watch for that, and let's see if the mail comes through and if everything's working okay, and let me know what happens.
Okay, very good, very good. Thank you. And Mary, as I said, happy, how did I say it? Happy Christmas, Hana Kwanz.
There you go.
Make it all one word. Okay, everybody, and Happy New Year if it comes before, whatever.
Yep. Thanks, Helen.
To everybody and all your writers.
Thanks, Alan.
Yep.
And again, good luck to your current guests. I can't say too much about it because I don't get the email, I'm not at my computer. So good luck, everyone.
Thank you. Take care, Helen.
Okay, bye.
Okay, everybody. We're talking to Widetrack, modern band starring Ron and his son, Zach Tippin. And if you want to talk to him, make a comment, ask a question, issue veiled threats, whatever you're into, the number's 516-453-9902. Give us a call. So, Ron, you guys have moved into a new studio. What's up with that?
Oh, yeah. We just kind of got lucky. It fell in our lap. And we've just recently finished getting everything up here. But it's been great. We've been working on our new album in a whole new environment, and it's just given us a nice shot of new life to be inspired by. And, Zach's over here a lot more, so I get to bribe him with a new studio to work in. And,
so
it's been nice.
Is that all you're doing in the studio is just composing and then working toward recording, or do you have students or anything else going on, classes? What's happening there?
We are starting classes up here in January, just private lessons. Zach's going to start. We'll see how the roster gets. If it gets too busy for just him, I'll probably get into it. I've got some work I'm trying to catch up with just our social media presence and getting our website transferred to a new platform and all this stuff. And that stuff sucks the hours up like crazy. So while my work is, my day job is seasonal, so I get to take advantage of this time to work on that stuff. But yeah, it's nice. We get some students up here, and it'll be Zach's kind of debut as a music teacher, and I think he'll do really well with it.
Oh, that'll be cool. teaching music is always an opportunity to even learn even more, and I think that's pretty cool. It's been times I've taught people stuff, and they come back with me with something. I come back with them. Next thing you know, we're working on something neither of us knew anything about. So music is cool that way.
You know, they say if you want to really know something, teach it to another person, and you realize all the holes in your own knowledge. And just like you said, the last question is, I never thought of it like that. I guess you can approach it like that, and it's been a real positive thing in my life. I think Zach will do great at it. He's more theoretical in his musical knowledge. He knows all the Mixolydian, all that stuff you were saying. I'm like, Mixolydian, Dorian, pentatonic, what? but which is cool. I think that helps us to have kind of those two perspectives in the band, you know, a field player and a technical player. We rub off on each other. I'll learn a little bit more than I'd be inclined to on my own, and you know, we'll joke around, have some fun with it.
Now, with you guys having this new studio, obviously recording, and you're working on a new album and whatnot, what's the story behind your recording? What's the process there, and you know, kind of, you know, fill in the listeners on what all goes into making a recording.
Well, we're kind of limited by the fact that it's just two of us in certain ways. You know, one of the things about a full band is it's rare that you'll have 4 or 5 guys who are all on the same page in terms of their contribution. You know, that the old saying, too many chefs spoil the stew. That can be very problematic when you've got 4 or 5 different ideas of production, for instance. Songwriting, you know, I want this chorus to go twice. Well, I don't want this chorus to go twice. You know, there's maybe that's just my personal experience in a lot of the bands I've been in. One of the positive things of it just being the two of us is, especially the two, we each kind of want to do different things. And certain bands that I've been in, you'll see like more than 2 guys want to write lyrics, and the singer will be like, well, I want to write the lyrics, I have to sing. You'll have problems like that where people are kind of fighting over the same job. Not always, but sometimes. We're lucky in the way that we each, you take care of that, cool. I don't have to do that, I'll do this. But one of the things about writing like this is we're kind of doing it through recordings. He'll track something and send it over to me, and then I'll track my part over it and send it back to him. And we're doing a lot of that, whereas a full band would have the opportunity to get together and everybody plays all the parts at once. That's one advantage to having 4 or 5 guys. So we're doing everything kind of just in pieces, and this album has been taking a long time, but we've never had an opportunity on any Widetrack album in the past to go and play songs live before we record them. So we said this time, let's try and do that with this stuff. So we've already gone out and played some of this stuff, and it's just been such an eye-opener. Once you get on stage and you just know immediately what's wrong or what's right with the song when you get on a stage. Like all of that navel gazing just goes out the window. You're in the hot seat. Hey, make it happen, you know. And we'll come back. Yeah, or you'll say that song just isn't going to work. You know, and it's that's a common story with a lot of bands. You know, they have that debut album is like this brilliant album, and it's their biggest selling album, and then the next one isn't quite good enough. It's not up to par as the first album. Then you hear because we spent 3 years playing clubs, playing these songs every night on the clubs.
in the club scenes, you know. So we got to, you know, tighten these songs up all those years. Playing them live, I mean, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, that's a great point, because it's like they've had their whole lives to write that first album, and then they only have a year or two to write the second one. But playing this stuff live is like, you know, that it's one of the most valuable lessons I ever had, was like, just because you write something doesn't mean that it qualifies as being on your album. So the more things that you have, and then to get out there and try them live and see how foolproof they are, because you'll get to a section, you'll be, wow, that one section went on too long, let's just cut that down. And stuff like that will just jump out at you. And when you're in the studio and you're in your own safe environment, you might be less inclined to make those snap judgments that are really important. But yeah, so we've been benefiting a lot. We've recorded these songs a few times now. Zach keeps getting better as an engineer, and, you know, he's working at the music store right now part-time, so he's picking up new equipment all the time. Hey, I guess we got to re-record this because I just got this nice little amp, or I just got this guitar. And, but the album is benefiting from it. And, you know, I think that's the other thing, too, is that with the extra time, you're saying, do I still like this song after 2 years of it existing? Like, that's a really nice, on one hand, people are waiting for you to release music, but on the other hand, you know that this song's got legs. You know it's going to endure, because here it is 2 years later and it still feels good to play it. And not every song we started has lasted this long. We've already dumped like 4 songs that we worked a lot on, you know. And we're always conscious of not wanting to be like Tool, where it took them like 18 years or something to write a, you know, yeah. that can get out of hand too. But nobody, in the grand scheme of things, nobody really knows who we are, and so, you know, I know time is of the essence, but it's important to us to really, when we come out this next time, this is going to be like the difference between Zach writing when he was 14 and Zach writing when he was 18. It's a striking difference in terms of his abilities and skill set. So, you know, we really want this one to be special. And so far, the stuff that we've decided on, yeah, this is definitely going to be on the album. We feel like very comfortable with putting it out. And until we get that, oh, hell yes, feeling about a song, about every song that we have, then we're just going to keep at it until we're done. And hopefully it doesn't take 18 years like it took Tool.
One of my favorite stories about that difference between different styles of working when you're composing and producing music was about the late, great Chick Corea, who was my all-time favorite musician. The guy recorded more than 150 albums in his life, and he played with every great musician there was, and his work was phenomenal. But he used to schedule 2 weeks to compose, rehearse, and record an album. And guys told stories, famous musicians told stories where they'd be all on the plane heading to San Francisco because he's got the studio booked and they're going to record an album that he hasn't written yet. And he'd be on the plane writing charts out and then walking them back to their seats and giving them their part as in real time while he's making these things up. And then they'd get in the studio and they'd run through them a couple of times and then they would record them. And that was it. And one of my favorite stories there was the horn player Eric Marienthal did an album with Chick Corea that way. And that was the only way Chick would do it. He did not do overlays. He didn't come back and fix things or anything like that. And they recorded this one song. And afterwards, Eric Marienthal went up to Chick and he said, Chick, can I re-record my track? Because I didn't like how I ended that. I kind of petered out and I really wanted to kind of go up and, have a stronger end on it or whatever. And Chick just said no. And it's like, so he came back at him again. Well, come on, Chick. I could do a much better version of that. Just let me record that track again. And Chick just kind of looked at him and said no. and then went back to what he was doing. And the third time Eric came in, I was like, well, Chick, I don't understand why wouldn't you want me to, make it better if I could? And Chick looked him right in the eye and he said, when we're out there recording a song like that, it's a conversation. All of us are having a conversation with each other. And if you come back later and change one person's dialogue, the conversation won't make sense anymore.
Right. Very true.
Very true.
He was the man. He was,
wasn't he?
He was so great. I saw him in '89 out at the NAMM show do it with the acoustic band, and it was one of the most extraordinary sets I've ever seen.
Yeah.
He was just, oh my God.
I got to see him with the acoustic band in Detroit in 2018 at the Jazz
Detroit
Festival.
Jazz Festival.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was a great.
Before he died. Wow.
All right, so we're gonna want to ask you some more questions here, but let's roll a commercial, and then we have a phone caller next, right, Beem?
Yes, we do.
All right, let's knock a commercial out here. Sell some books.
Aspiring young Chinese immigrant, Gigi O, survives by working as a stripper, but she strives for true success in the U.S. real estate industry. Navigating this highly competitive business is tough, especially when her only support comes from the deeply flawed man she loves and her old cohorts from the strip club. Issues of betrayal and trust, loyalty and commitment complicate her goals, even as one lesbian friend adds new dimensions to her understanding of love versus desire. Then the market crashes and financial turmoil threatens to rob Gigi O of all she has achieved. Can she find new ways to chase her dreams and still manage to keep her clothes on? Or might she find a better reason to take them off? Girl Wears Those Shoes is a tale of love and power. The story of one woman who wants to make the world her own, if only she can figure out how. Proudly published by Fresh Ink Group, Girl Wears Those Shoes is available in hardcover, softcover, all digital formats, and now audiobook with music and sound effects. Girl Wears Those Shoes.
All right. That is available on Amazon. Go over and grab your copy.
Yeah.
All right, so let's take a phone call here. Hello, caller. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hey, this is B.A. Johnson calling from Huntsville, Alabama.
From Huntsville, Alabama.
How you doing today?
Doing pretty good.
Great. I wanted to call and I wanted to congratulate them on their success. That's wonderful. A father and son working together. That is wonderful. I do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Okay. What genre of music do you all play? Is it jazz? Is it folk? Is it rock? What genre of music are you playing?
We play like alternative hard rock. Occasionally we'll do, more ballady, soft kind of rock ballads. All kind of under the umbrella of an alternative.
Okay, I kind of like soft rock. I'm not into that hard rock stuff. But
I'll be playing some of their music here in a little while.
You would like theirs, and we're going to play a song in a minute here.
Okay, great. I have another question. What musicians do you admire? Have you liked either in the past or currently? What musicians do you admire?
Oh, you could probably just start naming off a list of the greats, and we would just be nodding in accord. Yeah, all the greats, the McCartneys, Lennons,
Lately, we've been listening to a lot of Maxwell. I draw a lot of inspiration personally. I think he's very melodic, and, especially his songwriting.
We don't play a lot of R&B, but we listen to an awful lot of it, especially lately. We've been kind of building up a playlist of our favorite R&B stuff, Lauryn Hill, Maxwell Prince, Sade, we love Sade.
Those are some names I can relate to.
You know, that's the thing with our music is like we like the contours of that sensual sound that they have, and adding, you know, even if it's not something we're going to consciously write, like maybe just marinating in it for a little while will affect our music in some subtle way. We try to just stay open to whatever's good. We love reggae. We love jazz. We listen to a lot of jazz too, and that's why the progressive rock tag fits us a little more at times, because there's a sense of adventure in jazz and a freedom that is allowed in that genre that we don't want to be shut off from. If it's possible to add that to what we do, we love it.
Jazz makes it unlimited.
Yeah,
but you know,
it's a conversation, like you said. Yeah,
well, you're talking about R&B too. There was a big shift in the 70s, you know, like around the time bands like Deep Purple were putting out Machine Head and stuff like that, where they started playing blues progressions, like Machine Head, for example. Every song on that album is in a blues progression, but they're playing it like hard rock. And a lot of people don't realize they're really listening to blues, even though it doesn't have the feel or the attitude of your traditional blues songs.
Oh, absolutely. That's funny you say that, Stephen, because for us, like there is no greater decade than the 70s. The 70s to us artistically was on a level all its own. The 60s and 90s were great, but the 70s to us, like when you just look at popular radio, where you could turn on the radio and you had, on the same station, you had literally anything from Earth, Wind and Fire to Black Sabbath to the singer-songwriter stuff like James Taylor and Simon & Garfunkel to, you know, the Horn, Bee Gees, disco,
Casey and the Sunshine Band,
and the Osmonds.
There was never a diversity in one station. You'll never have that again. It was just such a special time, and the quality of everything. I think just after the 60s were allowed to kind of come down a little bit and be a little more reflective and mature into the 70s, it was just explosive. And culture, I mean, TV, movies, everything was just at it's the top of the game, in our opinion.
Yeah, I agree. It was a musical stew back then.
Yeah, and why not?
Yeah, I can relate to the 70s. I love that music. I have one last question. You may have to think about this one. If you could play a set with someone, anyone, who would it be?
If we could play
a set,
like play in their band.
If you could play with a band, who would it be?
I know I would probably pick Prince. That's probably who I would pick.
Wow, that's a good pick.
Yeah,
that's a good pick. You can watch Zach sitting there with his mouth hanging open.
Well, think of anybody that's an easier act to follow, just in case, God forbid, we don't get the opening slot. You know, I don't want to play after Prince.
No.
Like, you know.
Or are you saying like our band opens up for their band, or we play in the band with them?
I think she's saying playing in the band.
In the band. You play with it.
Then Prince, yeah. Prince.
Maybe Paul McCartney.
No Yngwie?
Yngwie J.
I want to stay away from that guy, man. He seems mean. He seems like a taskmaster.
He's awful good.
All right, well, Barbara, we appreciate you calling in, and stick around, and we're going to play some music here, and you can see what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
I will. I'm real interested to hear what music that they play. Thank you guys for answering those questions, and continued success. Have a great evening.
Yep. Thanks for calling.
Thanks,
Have a great Christmas, man.
Now,
you do likewise.
Before we play the song "Virtue," Ron, you want to tell us what happened with the video that you guys were making for "Virtue"?
Yeah, our first couple videos were made by a friend of ours named Jim T-Shirt, and his partner Alana. We talked to them about doing this video. We didn't realize at the time that the song was a bit longer than the other ones that he had done. So when the video was finally done, and it was kind of under this thing where Jim was letting Alana direct it, so the actors in the video are featured quite a bit more than our music was. So when we saw the video, it was like, okay, well, that's cool that the actors have something for their promotional reasons, but we'd like to get another cut of the video that features us a little bit more in it. And unfortunately, before we were able to make that happen, Jim passed away with a heart attack in his sleep. So we just kind of shelving the video for right now, and maybe we'll approach his widow, his wife, at some point about trying to do something else with it.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but maybe you'll still have a good opportunity to do something with his work, get that new version out there. And, of course, when you do, let us know. We'll put it in the newsletter. So all you smart listeners who subscribe to the newsletter will be able to find out when that video is available. But how about we play Virtue, see what it is that we're talking about. And I got to say, I have not heard it yet. So this is a world premiere for me. I'm excited.
Yeah, this is a world premiere, everybody. Virtue by Widetrack.
Life is hard, girl. You won't
premiere of Virtue by Widetrack.
I could hear that opening for Liquid Tension Experiment. What do you think, Beem?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
What's the story behind this song? What's the inspiration? What's the message?
It's kind of a pro woman in the workplace song. It's kind of I wrote out a thing recently, and I can't remember the wording of it, but it's basically just if you've had to kind of kiss the boot of male superiors, this is for you. We see you, kind of thing.
Cool.
So without getting too.
What's the name of the album now?
The title that we've been going with, obviously this stuff is always subject to change at the 11th hour, but we're kind of going with the title Monoliths.
Okay. Any idea of when you think that'll be ready to go? A few months? Maybe spring, summer?
It's possible. We've been pushing the goalposts back and back and back as we've reevaluated what we want to put out. We had, like you said, 4-ish songs that were pretty much, written and recorded, and we decided to forego them just because it wasn't right. And, so it's tough to say, but we're going to try to have it out by summer 2023.
Well, that would be great.
Yeah.
One of the things that made it difficult for us is the kind of going back and forth of we've been trying to educate ourselves with the modern music marketing type of education stuff that's out there. And I keep running into the same thing of, hey, this is 2023. Nobody wants to just sit down and listen to a full album. It's about singles anymore. And if you're a band no one's ever heard of and you're blowing your whole wad on releasing, 10 or whatever songs in an album at once, you're doing it wrong. You need to be trickling out one song at a time. And I understand that, you want to stay in front, and especially in the social media age, the name of the game is to kind of stay in front of people with the frequency. But with our last album, we did that kind of, like we put out a song a month and until the year was over and we had 12 songs. We just didn't like it. We didn't like doing it like that.
Yeah.
But now it's been like 3 years since we released the last album, and we put out a couple songs, but we're thinking now, like, maybe we do have a few things finished, so maybe we should just do that. But it's just, we've been going back and forth about it. It's such a weird time in musician history. We're still acclimating to the digital era. And people from Zach's generation, they don't know anything else. They grew up, but people from our era, Beem and Steven, like we're in that weird place where we're 1 foot in each era, and so I like the idea of like these milestones being in form of albums.
Albums, yes. You're talking about being from the old school era. I mean, back in our day, and I'm still the same way. When a band drops the new album, man, I go out and I get it. I want to hold the physical album in my hand. Back in the day, it was always vinyl. Nowadays, it's probably CDs for me. I'm still doing CDs. But and I want to read the liner notes, and I want to listen to every track on that album. I don't want to hear a track and then now I got to wait, a month, 2 months for the next track to come out. It just, but that's how they do it nowadays. And
well, it's a really weird thing because it's like I don't think you're see like another Led Zeppelin or Eagles or any of those big bands. one of the things that I came to realize with the newer, like a lot of the kids, and I definitely don't want to be that guy who's like, oh, kids these days, you know, it's like, but I'm looking at, yeah, exactly. But it's like, if it's about playlists and about moments or just individual songs, it's like a lot of these kids don't even know the names of the bands that are playing these songs that they listen to. And, you know, it's like that's not the important aspect of it. But as a band, you're going, well, what do I do then? Because how do I encapsulate all these ideas that I want to get across? The only way to do that is with an album, like to show that kind of range. To do it in one song is extremely difficult, and it's very limiting. So unless you just simplify what you do, so there's been a lot of reevaluation, just kind of talking about it. And ultimately, it's just the same story that you see time and time again throughout history is like, just do what you do and believe in it. And hopefully that will be enough. And if it's not enough for the public at large, it will be enough for you to be able to say, well, hey, that's my integrity. That's you know, I can bend to serve an audience only so much until I feel like I'm not even enjoying it. So it's got to come from that place of like, what can we get fired up about? And that really, you know, one of the things that we've talked about is the bands that you're seeing on social media, like such a level of pandering to an audience. And, you know, you see these people in bands where they'll say, hey, what do you think of this new song we're working on right now? Is there anything you want us to change about it? And the bands that we grew up liking, they wouldn't do that in a million years. No. They wouldn't ask what you think of they don't care. They don't care what you think of their new album. They're going to write what they're going to write. And, you know, the bands that we enjoy, like Radiohead is a good example. You don't know what you're going to get with them on their next album. You might not like them, but you certainly, if you're a fan of them, you support their freedom to do that.
To do what they want,
their freedom to say, we're selfish about this. We're going to do this for ourselves, and if you want to join us on that journey, that's cool. And I think the best progressive rock bands, especially the Pink Floyds and the bands like that, were just they couldn't listen to the outside voices too much, because at the end of the day, it's like you can't even get a consensus that way. You know, you can have 100 fans of diehard fans of a band, and they can't agree on what the set list of a band should be that they could create. So ultimately, all you have is to say, do I feel like I am 100% behind this thing I just created? And once you do that, then you just let it go and just let it, however it's going to be received. And hopefully there's people that will just get that and they'll dig it on that level.
So the last album that is for sale now is The Unawakening, and that has one of my favorite songs on it, Tribal. And we're starting to run pretty low on time here, so Beem, why don't we play Tribal and get another song in here while we can?
All righty, this is Tribal.
Crowd for
That's such a great song.
I like that song. That time I was actually hearing maybe David Bowie performing the verses. And
yeah,
of course,
I could hear that.
You'd need Robert Fripp, covering Zach's parts, of course.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Love those. Love those.
Was that? What was that?
Ron?
Whoop, I'm sorry.
You said something?
You hear us?
Yeah.
Whoop.
Yeah, love those guys. Love all those.
Okay. So, you guys are kind of in a unique situation to offer advice. What kind of advice would you have for indie musicians? Ron coming from the old school and, knowing how things were and Zach being the younger guy and what's going on nowadays and you guys are together doing this. What kind of advice do you have to indie musicians that are coming up today or some of them that have even been out for a while and are still trying to find their place?
Probably nothing that's new, but the old adage of just be true to yourself. Find the thing that is uniquely you and believe in it and expand on it. Don't be afraid to be a little weird if that's your thing.
Weird is good.
Yeah. There's so much trick in the world that's basically, it seems like one of your best weapons is your own originality. And I think it's especially lately, it's become counterintuitive to be that way. There's always the human drive to fit in and to appeal to more people, but I don't know, everything that you can really point to that really had any longevity was innovative and revolutionary. And I think at its core, that starts from a place of the uniqueness that we each have. I don't know. What do you think, Zach?
I think there's a lot of temptation to be palatable and to make compromises. And, I definitely think there's an argument to be made for advancing your knowledge on what's popular and what people like. But, I agree. I think the greatest thing that you can do is have a vision for the music that you're creating and to believe in it more than anybody else could be expected to. And to trust that you are on the right path when you create and when you put music out. Especially if you're alone, I know that it would have been a lot more difficult without my dad. But if I were writing a lot of this stuff, I would, there'd be times where I'd be doubtful. And, things move so fast in the world. Even people who get popular and reach a wide audience almost never sustain that sort of fast fashion level of popularity. And the type of attention that does stick around is, I think, respect. When you see a musician that you respect, it makes you want to follow them and to hear out whatever their muse takes them, whatever they choose to do. And I think that's the most realistic expectation for being an indie musician is create music that you believe in, that is honest for the time that you are creating it, that is not doubtful of itself, and not trying to be something that it's not. And most of all, do it even if nobody else would listen to it. That makes it a whole lot easier.
There you go. And well put.
Other people prop up your work.
Yes, Stephen, you mentioned David Bowie. There's a great clip of him going around, and you might have seen it, but that somebody asked him that question, what advice would you say? And he says, don't play to the gallery. Don't pander. And the best advice I could give you, he says, is play a little bit far enough out in the water where your feet don't touch the bottom. You're probably in a good place creatively where you're just a little bit out of your depth. And
one of my favorite metaphors.
Yeah.
All right, so you guys have a live show coming up in Detroit in January. Where's that going to be and when?
Yeah. January 3rd, I believe.
I've got 26th on my notes here.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Yeah, it's at the Corktown Tavern, January. It's a Thursday show.
Yeah, Corktown, down there where the old Tiger Stadium used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's Corktown Tavern on the 26th, and then you've got the Corktown Music Fest. When is that?
That's on March. That's the one the March 3rd.
March 3rd. Yeah.
Friday, March.
Corktown Tavern, January 26th, and then the Corktown Music Festival on March 3rd. And we're down to about a minute here. How do people find you guys? You got a website? You out there where people can send you a note or anything?
Yep, everything is Widetrack Band, except for YouTube is just Widetrack. At Widetrack, widetrackband.com.
Get out there and find them, guys.
Yep, get out there and find them. And then as just before we sign off here, I got one last question. What's up with Zach's hair product?
Well, I separated the conditioner. In fact, I'm going to take my third shower of the day when I get home. I found a new appreciation for cleanliness. Like they all say, cleanliness is like godliness.
There you go. Okay, the band is Widetrack. Ron and Zach Tippin. Get out there and find them. If you want to get a note to them and can't figure out another way, we got a contact form at freshinkgroup.com. Thanks for being on the show, guys.
Thanks, guys.
We've got the Herndons repeat next week, so make sure you turn in. Then we got B.A. Johnson,
January
George Dismukes, C.J. Peterson. We got a bunch of people. And we'll see you guys next time.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, everybody.
Yep.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, guys.
You've been a part of Voice of Indie, a production of Fresh Ink Group. Spread the word, support our guests, then find us at freshinkgroup.com and be sure to hashtag Fresh Ink Group.